respiration, digestion, circulation, excretion, and various other processes maintain life in all living things. Let us see if these processes are always carried out at the same level or whether the level varies. Temperature changes with the seasons. In summer, the temperature is high, while in winter it is very low. But in any season, our body temperature is maintained at about 37 degrees Celsius. In winter, the body must produce more energy, so we eat foods that provide more energy. On the other hand, in summer, temperature of our skin is higher because of the higher temperature of the air in the surrounding. To reduce this temperature, the skin produces sweat. When sweat evaporates, it helps to lower the skin temperature. As the body loses water due to sweating, we feel thirsty. That is why we drink more water in summer. These responses of the body, eating more energy-giving foods in winter, increased sweating and thirst in summer, help the body to maintain the right temperature. Several changes occur in our everyday life. Sometimes we eat more, sometimes less, sometimes sweet, and sometimes spicy hot foods. Depending on these changes, the process of digestion also undergoes changes, and the food gets digested properly. It means that even as conditions inside and outside the body changes all the time, changes in life processes also take place in accordance with them, so that on the whole, life goes on at a proper level. Thus, the optimum level of the body in the given conditions is maintained in all circumstances. This continuous process of adjustment is called homeostasis. Every living thing responds to factors of the environment such as light, heat, cold, pressure, etc. Various life processes are carried on in the bodies of living things. These life processes are dependent upon one another. Hence, it is necessary for them to be well coordinated. To bring about this coordination between their life processes and also between the movements of the various parts of the body, living things have a special regulatory system. In man, nervous system and the endocrine system carry out this function. There are nerve cells or neurons in the human body. Neurons are the basic unit of which the nervous system is made and which carry out the functions of the nervous system. Let us first study about the nervous system. Man's nervous system consists of the brain, the spinal cord, and the nerves or nerve fibers. All these control and coordinate the life processes. The nervous system can be divided into two parts: the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. The brain and the spinal cord belong to the central nervous system. They regulate all actions of the body. The nerves form the peripheral nervous system. They form a network that spreads all over the body. The nerves connect the various parts of the body to the central nervous system. Nerves are of two types: afferent nerves and efferent nerves. Let us study about afferent nerves. Afferent nerves bring information about the different parts of the body to the spinal cord and the brain, whereas efferent nerves carry the commands given by the brain or spinal cord to the various parts of the body. After the commands are received from the central nervous system, the specific part carries out the necessary action. These actions are brought about by the bones and muscles in that part. Muscles can cause movements of the bones. You have seen how, when you wish to hold something tight in your hand, the muscles of every finger contract or relax to the proper extent and put the bones of the finger in a specific position. Thus, the hand as a whole is able to hold the object firmly. Although unicellular animals like the amoeba do not have a separate nervous system, the cell itself is sensitive and regulates its own life processes. A primitive or very simple nervous system can be seen in some multicellular animals like Hydra. In an earthworm, several neurons come together to form a ganglion. These ganglia are joined to form a nerve cord. In man, we see the most highly developed nervous system consisting of brain, spinal cord, and nerves. Your mouth waters at the sight of tamarinds. You cover your ears with your hands the moment you see someone light a cracker. If your hand touches something hot, it gets pulled away at once. If a needle pricks your finger, you scream, "Ow!" and your finger gets pulled away. These are all examples of reflex action. So let us learn about it in detail. Sometimes actions take place even without messages reaching the brain. In such cases, the messages reach only the spinal cord and the actions of the specific organs take place. These are called reflex actions. Thus, a shortcut is taken to give an immediate reaction. Let us now learn about endocrine system. The endocrine system consists of various glands. These glands are ductless. They secrete hormones, chemical substances that control the life processes and movements of animals are called hormones. Hormones are secreted in very small quantities. The organs secreting them are called endocrine glands. Even though the endocrine glands are situated only at specific places in the human body, the hormones bring about effects all over the body. Their function is carried out at places at a distance from where they are secreted. These glands do not have ducts. The hormones enter the blood directly and spread throughout the body through the blood. Endocrine glands in the human body are the pituitary, thyroid, adrenal, pineal, thymus. The sex of the embryo is decided at the time of conception. However, the manifestation of sexual characteristics in adolescence occurs as a result of the action of hormones. At a certain age, the physical development of boys and girls begins to show differences depending upon their sex. For example, at puberty, an adolescent boy gets a mustache and beard, and his voice becomes hoarse. On the other hand, at puberty, a girl's breasts begin to grow and her voice becomes higher pitched. These differences are the effects of hormones. Students, you know we all grow. Growth is an important characteristic of living things. Let us learn about that. Also, it is an irreversible process. Growth in animals. A newborn baby soon begins to turn over on its stomach, to crawl, to walk, to run, and so on. These are irreversible changes that occur during its growth. As children grow, there is an increase in their height and weight, and there are changes in their shape and size. Such irreversible changes constitute growth. A definite period of time is required for growth. When you were a baby, you must have first started to turn over on your stomach, then crawled, then started standing, then walking, and so on. There are various stages in the process of growth, namely 1. Production, 2. Growth, 3. Differentiation. Let us learn about them one by one. 1. Production. In this stage, a new organism is produced. Growth at this stage is slow. 2. Growth. The parts of the new organism grow in length, weight, and size. The rate of growth is more. 3. Differentiation. The new parts formed become stabilized. Growth is slow. We see that animals grow only for a definite period of time. Let us now see how the control and regulation of growth in animals takes place. How much an animal will grow depends upon genetic factors. These genetic factors are called genes. Genes are present in the nucleus of every cell. When the limit of growth as determined by genes is reached, growth stops. The growth hormone responsible for the increase in the height of children is produced in the pituitary gland in the brain. An increase in its secretion causes the bones of the legs to grow longer. The nervous system and hormones control and regulate the growth of animals. Let us come to the control and coordination in plants. The movements of animals are easily noticeable. Not so the movements of plants. However, control and coordination of growth and movement is seen in plants too. Have you observed that when you touch the mimosa's leaves, they react by closing up? After some time, they open again. Actions like the blossoming of a bud into a flower, the flowers of the night-blooming jasmine, that is, Raat Rani blossoming only at night, the growth of roots deep into the soil in search of water, the stem growing towards sunlight, the characteristic movements of the Drosera and pitcher plant to catch their prey, all tell us that movements in plants are also controlled and coordinated.